Ripple me this, riddle me that. The Bee Gees dropping hints from inside Ripple for all of us to see. You bet your ass we're going to talk about that. Hey folks, I'm Sam I Am, and I'm here to tell you the beginning of the end has arrived. It was announced 2 days ago at Swell, and that was Brad Garlinghouse's announcement that X-Rapid has gone live. That marks a profound change that I think very few of us, probably most of the people watching this video within the first week or so of it being released, really comprehend and understand exactly how profound this event is going to be. It's something that's going to affect generations. It's going to change life on this planet for a vast majority of the people in ways that most of them don't even know. Most of them don't know who Ripple is, don't know what any of this stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and we're going to dive into it. So this all started with one of the XRP escrow accounts. This one has 950 million XRP in it, and on October 1st, early in the morning, I'm not sure which time zone this is, 1 billion XRP, I think, were moved back into escrow, and there was a memo attached. Now, they haven't done this with all of the other escrow moves. This is the first time I think we've seen anything like this, and it says, "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." And of course, that's a JFK quote where he just declared, we're going to the moon. He did it without evidence. They didn't know if they could get there. They didn't know if it was technically feasible. There were so many unknowns, and whether or not they did or not is a whole nother story. But if you've never heard of Room 234, I think it is, and you think that Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is a movie about a crazy guy in a hotel, you definitely need to watch that closely and go look at that documentary. But anyway, putting that aside, and when I saw that in this decade, and of course that's a reference to 10, and shortly after this, X-Rapid was announced as being launched and having gone live, that was one of the things that clued me into, hey, I think this is the Bee Gees, one of the Bee Gees in there giving us a hint. And this was, of course, published right before the public announcement. And just like this speech by JFK really marked a declaration that we're heading into this new age, this is doing the exact same thing. And this will be famous just like the quote in the blockchain, in the Bitcoin blockchain, about the 2008 financial crisis and the banks just being out of control. And that's why Bitcoin was created, to sort of increase freedom that the individual has over their own money, because the system has really taken that away from us. And then there's the second note here from the client that says, the beginning of the end for Laputa. Now, that's a movie reference. We're going to get into what that means, but we'll just set that aside for now, because I want to talk about sort of the Bee Gees. And I know I've described that in my very first video as far as who they are. I think it's a group, a kind of a collective of individuals, and each one is somebody different in the group. The original, of course, was Bearable Guy 123. Now, he was on Twitter and Reddit. He was gone shortly before I even knew really what Ripple was and who the Bee Gees were and so forth. But he gave us some interesting things, one of which was, of course, this 589 prediction. It's in front of the UN, suggesting global adoption. But one of the key things here is the Ripple logo on the Malta flag. And we've also got, in one of his probably his most famous puzzle or riddle, is the castle one. And of course we have the hooked X, which is a Knights Templar symbol on the shield, as well as on the XRP banner up here. And the Knights Templar are really tied in with Malta. Now, historically anyway. And of course, months later, there's all kinds of news about Malta being this cryptocurrency paradise, how they really want to bend over backwards to bring the exchanges and as much crypto-related business as they can to the island. You've got the Prime Minister said he sees blockchain technology as the tool which will allow Bitcoin and crypto to inevitably gain widespread mass adoption and become the future of money. He's previously said that Bitcoin and blockchains have the ability to eliminate third-party service providers, giving users more freedom over information and money. So these guys are really champions for this change, this profound era that we're entering into. They recognize it. They've been there apparently to help Ripple. If you buy into the Bearable guy and what he's had to say, and this is one of the kind of the early indicators that, you know, he suggests that he's somebody on the inside that knows some things. You know, there was also the donors choose pictures of kids and kids in libraries and so forth. There's lots and lots of things like that. And I know he said, well, I'm the only one, but that was in response to people that were duplicating accounts with like an underscore added and tricking people into thinking that he was that these fake accounts were Bearable Guy 123s. Bearable Guy 123 Decoder is the other one that's on YouTube that basically helped people understand the riddles. And he points out, I'm not the original. I'm somebody different, but I'm here to help. Same kind of thing. And he's shown us over and over again. If you remember the bear and Sleep Peacefully with SEC in capital letters telling us that the regulation and stuff is sorted. We're just waiting for the announcement basically, but don't worry, it's all been handled behind the scenes. And it had the yellow months all the way up to October, and then November and December are the green months. So that's really what I'm waiting on. And again, you know, there's all these people that come out, well, if XRP is going to 589, then it would have to gain $5 a day. It better start soon. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, you're clearly somebody who hasn't looked into this at all, because I don't expect anything really much to happen until November and December, because that's the guidance that we've been given over and over again. There's also lots of hints and clues that Decoder has left in the comments. And they really also in those comments talk about it's not how much XRP you have or how much money you make or whatever off of this thing, but it's what you do with it that's important. It's the difference that you make in the world. It's, you know, you will be given the tools and the resources to help us move society in whatever direction you choose, whatever you see fit. And so think about what you do with that and what kind of difference you want to make and how you want to be remembered and so forth. And we've talked about that in some other videos. Okay, let's move on to Ripple Riddler. He's my favorite for sure. He's put out a lot of clues. One of the early ones was this 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. Listen to what I'm telling thee. And of course, about a week later, this is published August 3rd. This is his Twitter account in the media section. A week later, we had the 3 preferred liquidity providers announced by Ripple. And we also had the first article about convergence, where they're taking XCurrent, XRapid, and XVita, merging those into one product that's just RippleNet, which is kind of how I've been describing this all along. Just this network that everybody plugs into. You send it what you have and tell it where you want it to go and what you want it to come out as, and it figures out the rest. And their products are so tightly integrated now that they've pretty much done away with those designations, and there's just liquidity solutions or liquidity provisioning or something like that. But at this time, that was not announced or talked about publicly. So he let us know, hey, I'm somebody that's in the know, at least, you know, not guaranteed that he's on the inside, but somebody that knows what's coming, essentially. And of course, the next big clue was having to do with this crossword puzzle. Here's the crossword, and the key one of the key takeaways for me was this 20 across. And it is, the German mark collapsed to the floor, the Mary Celeste sailed away, and then no more. So, of course, it's referencing Weimar Republic hyperinflation, where the fiat was just worthless. The men would get paid every day. They would run out to their wives, dump it into wheelbarrows. They would go to the store and buy whatever was left before that money was worth even less the following day. And the Mary Celeste, if you remember from my earlier video, was the ship that showed up deserted, was put back into service, and eventually discarded. And it basically means it's come to represent a deserted asset. So you have fiat being deserted. And of course, the 20 across is a clue for November 20th, which just happens to correlate with the SR 2018, which is the SWIFT Service Release 2018, where the UETI and all that stuff becomes mandatory if you want to continue using SWIFT. And that is the date that I think RippleNet will be plugged into the back of SWIFT. SWIFT becomes basically this glorified messaging service. It's a dumb terminal that all of the tellers in the banks around the world and bank managers already know how to use. It will work exactly the same with a few minor changes. But for the most part, instead of taking 3 days, it's going to complete the transactions in a matter of a few seconds, because that's going to start going over Ripple. Okay, and as a direct result of that, the US dollar is going to lose a lot of utility, and it's going to be transferred over into XRP. And with all of these, we've got central banks that are going to be using it. We've got SWIFT, we've got retail, corporates, you name it, FX providers, the exchanges. It's going to be globally adopted, and the IMF is just going to have no choice but to replace the SDR with this thing. And the globalists, I think the SDR was their solution. If you go back to the Economist article from 1998, which was 30 years ago, where they predicted in 30 years, which is 2018, amazing how that works, that there would be this digital currency that would replace all the fiat currencies. I think the SDR was what they had hoped or what they had planned to use as that replacement. That didn't come about. It never got utility. It just didn't work. It was just this failed asset over and over again. And, along comes Ripple with this solution that nobody's in control of. That's the brilliance of the whole thing. Is it really, there is no one party controlling it, and it by default essentially returns that power back to the individuals who are using it. And so that's really a sea change, and it's going to negatively affect the current global reserve currency, which is the US dollar. I mean, today, if you want to buy oil, you got to buy dollars first. You buy the oil in dollars, and then the receiving end that's getting the dollars has to either do something with the dollars or sell them and get their local currency that they want, or whatever it is they want. With RippleNet, you put whatever currency you have in, and you can get oil out the other end, or stocks, or anything that can connect in and plug into RippleNet can be transferred across the ILP. So in a sense, this is sort of pointing out to us that, the dollar is going to die. It's going to lose a lot of value here very shortly starting November 20th. Okay. Now, we also have his latest video, which is right here. I'm going to play a little bit for you. So we have basically some numbers are going to start appearing up here, and they grow. They're in the shape of the continent, so that's showing us global adoption is going to start small and get big. And then at 56 seconds, if you look at the time code right here, it all disappears. Now, if you take September 26, 2018, the date this video was published, and add 56 days to it, that takes you to December 21st. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you know the significance of that date. That's the triple witch, where all of those stock market options and derivatives and so forth come up for renewal. And the money managers can either roll them over, they can cash them out, or they can move them into other assets. And what do you think they're going to move them into? We have ICE and BACT and the NYSE creating this cryptocurrency trading desk. XRP is going to be this incredible hot investment that, because all of its utility that will already be in place by that point. From November 20th, you've got the Swift basically on ramp, and then 10 days later you have TIPS, which is related to retail payments for Europe. Who knows what else is happening in between that time. And then, the stock market's going to hit, where you have just this tidal wave, tsunami of money coming into XRP. And I think he's telling us that when that disappears at 56 days, that is the last tidal wave of money that's going to move into XRP. So hold your XRP. Wait for December 21st. Now, I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm doing this for entertainment purposes only. Make your own decisions. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Use your common sense and do your own research and make your own judgments. Okay, now that I've said that, I can talk about it the way I want to. Okay, let's keep going with this. And so further down in the video here, it all kind of disappears and goes dark here on 11/1, okay, which is swell. I think that's representing 11/1 or 10/0. I think it's telling us we're going to go through this dark period that we're in right now, where XRapid has been announced, but we haven't seen a huge jump in the price. And then all of a sudden, coming into 11/14, November 4th, all hell's going to break loose potentially. And especially on the 5th, you see the XRP logo appears behind him. So I think we're kind of in this quiet period now where XRP might fall. This might be the crash that we're sort of heading into, that I've talked about, may happen, may not. Nobody can really predict prices, myself included. But I think that's what the riddle is kind of showing us here. And of course it goes on from there, and there's lots of fireworks and so forth. And if you look at the Ripple Riddler, that's not how you ride a bull that you're not in control of. You don't spread your arms out like that if this is a wild bull going crazy. They pretty much are telling us, we own it. We got this. We own this situation. Take a look at the magnificence that is coming in November. So that's not everything that's in this video, but those are, I think, some of the key points to really recognize. One more thing that we got from Ripple Riddler has to do with the Counting Crows. So let's go back here. And if you remember this one with the window panes that I talked about being September, October, November, December, this way, you can see the crow is right up here on the threshold of October, which is October 1st. And of course, that was a reference to the Counting Crows playing at Swell, which is Ripple's user conference. And I want to show you a little clip from the video. Now, if you remember the one before that, it had the tree that was talking about November and so forth. When I saw this video, I thought, this is Counting Crows Long December. Immediately reminded me of that puzzle. But here we have the trees and the smoke and the dark imagery, and right here, a wooden windowsill with some faded paint and stuff going on back here. And if you go back to here, same thing. So another reference to Counting Crows. Of course, the lyrics to this song, and it's been a long December, and there's a reason to believe maybe this year will be better than the last. I can't remember all the times I tried to tell myself to hold. How many times have the Bee Gees told us to hold, hold, XRP equals hold? It's in all the decoder videos. It's Ripple Riddler has told us that over and over and over and over again. If you go back to Bearable Guy 123, we've got the tooth here in October and Persevere. And of course, Bearable Guy 123 Decoder has that video where he talks about this specific aspect of this puzzle. And he says, when you count to 10, don't despair. not despair, but dispair, meaning separate two things that belong together, you and your XRP. So hold on to it because the fireworks are coming November and December. Okay. So there's another sort of indication that not only is the Ripple Riddler somebody who knows the band that's being picked for the user conference weeks ahead of time, but also that whoever's picking the band is picking them for a very specific reason. And if you look at this song, it's everything. It's going to be a long December, not because of hard times or whatever, but because it's going to be hard to sit back and hold on to your XRP through this roller coaster of events that are coming. But those who wait to December will be vastly, vastly rewarded over those who sell, in early November at the first run up. Okay. It's a different market that we're heading into. It's all about utility. We're very quickly leaving behind the speculator market, and those who are stuck in that mindset will pay the price, okay, in lost gains. Okay, let's see here. I think the next thing is to talk about the castle in the sky. Now this goes back to the memo here, the beginning of the end for Laputa. So this is an anime movie. It's pretty good. I've watched it with my daughter. We rather enjoyed it. And I want to read you, let's see, this section right here. The name Laputa is derived from Jonathan Swift's novel, Gulliver's Travels, wherein Swift, Laputa, is also a flying island controlled by its citizens. Castle in the Sky is similar to Swift's Laputa, where the technological superiority of the castle in the sky is used for political ends. Now, in this movie, we're going to play some clips from it, and I'm going to talk about it some more. But there's Laputa, and then there's all this big structure that's been built around it by the powers that be, and they've turned this beautiful floating city into this giant weapon and used it to suppress populations and so forth. And I'm going to explain kind of some of the meanings and so forth behind that in a minute. But I just wanted to point out Swift. This is another thing that tells me, oh yeah, this has the Bee Gees written all over it, because they like to, how many times have I told you, they like to stack as much meaning as they can into one of their clues. And so we've got, 10, we've got just this profound change with the JFK quote. We've got this Laputa, and I'm just scratching the surface here, but this ties in with Swift. And of course, it's also in the movie, there's this valuable crystal called Ethereum that they mine, and it allows them to create these floating cities. Of course, the beginning of the end for Laputa, beginning of the end for Ethereum. So there's another stacked meaning. I don't think that's the primary one, but another interesting one nonetheless. Okay, and so let's go ahead and jump in. So this is my interpretation, and I'm going to switch over here to the slide so you can see that. If you go and watch this movie, I'm going to give you all kinds of spoilers, but it doesn't matter. You should be watching it. I think if you watch it with this mindset of kind of how I think the Bee Gees would want you to interpret it, or how I've interpreted it, I think it will make a lot more sense. So in my mind, Sheeta and Pazu are Ripple. They represent Ripple. And those are the two kids that are the main characters, and they're running around trying to dismantle this big machine and get away from the bad guys. Now there's Dola's Pirates, who are the early Ripple investors. I'm going to show you why. It's kind of a humorous little scene in there. Muska represents the powers that be. And there's the military's airship Goliath, which I think is symbolic of Swift. And it holds all these soldiers, which to some degree represent the US dollar and the military industrial complex, and basically the way the US government and the powers that be, the elites, will move in to shut down other governments. I mean, you got to understand all of the major wars from Saddam to Gaddafi and so forth. All these guys, those are the countries without central banks who were trying to start their own gold-backed dinar or various things. They were going to start selling oil without buying the U.S. dollar first. And what do you know? We need a war. All of a sudden, they're our biggest enemy, and we have to go and blow them up. Not really a coincidence. So I think that's kind of what those are loosely representing. And Laputa, in my view, represents value exchange between individuals. It's this beautiful thing that, as I'll show you with the video clips, has been latched onto by these vampires, by these elites that want to control it and use it to their own ends to control populations, kind of like is being described over here. Okay, so let's switch. Give me just a second here, and I'm gonna. Okay, there we go. So this is early on in the movie. These are the pirates coming in on the attack. This is not the Laputa or anything. This is just a flying ship. And of course, this is the main character. This is the powers that be guy, who is one of the elites that's trying to control the situation. He has her pendant, which has the Ethereum element in it that allows them to fly. And these are the pirates. These are the XRP investors. They're coming in trying to steal the riches, and they're in it for the money and this and that. Well, over the course of this movie, they kind of realize the bigger picture, I think, and they actually turn out to help these two, help them get away from the bad guys and so forth, and they get captured. And it ends up, they go inside of this floating city. That was after the weapon was used to blow up the ground, showing that it's been weaponized. And right here, they've uttered this magic phrase that has caused Laputa to self-destruct. And the powers that be guy is all of a sudden blinded, and he can't see anymore, meaning he's lost his power. And the city actually begins to crumble and fall apart. And you can see the blocks are all tearing themselves apart there. And I want to find this picture here. Yes. I'm going to wait just a second. Okay. So here you can see up top here is the original city and the tree, and all the roots are down here below it. And there's all of this crap right here that's latched on, and that's what's falling away. So that's why I think this tree really represents the value exchange among individuals, among humans. And the part that's falling away is all of the crap that's attached to it. SWIFT, the global banking system, all the central banks, the powers that be, the elites that are using it to control us and to dominate us and to extract our wealth. And what Ripple has done, and it started with this announcement on October 1st, is they have sort of set into motion this chain reaction that, while yes, they get to gain some ground in terms of AML and KYC, and they get to track all of our money exchange and moving of finances and so forth much easier than with greater capabilities than they've ever had before. At the same time, it's bringing about the beginning of the end. I mean, if you look at Ripple's customers, they're not the Chase banks. They're not the RBCs and the UBS. It's not these big global financial institutions. They have the most to lose because they're the ones that all of the credit unions and the medium-sized players and the small players are coming to and getting charged exorbitant fees in order to access their global network. And so they're not running to Ripple and XRP, if you didn't notice, because they have the most to lose. They're going to batten down the hatches and, go into panic and defensive mode because, they're on the losing end of this deal. Simple as that. Whereas the ones who are going to, bring about the change are going to be the exchanges, the new FIs, these smaller companies that are more innovative, that have the most to gain by bringing about these new services. And that's what we're already seeing with these crypto-backed credit cards and so forth. It's not the big banks offering these. It's these smaller mid-sized players that are getting in there. They're able to quickly adapt technology. They're in the little speedboat, whereas Chase is in the big cargo ship. Speedboat can turn around and change course a lot faster than that big cargo ship. And so they're going to have an advantage because they're doing that, and they're going to bring about this change and really drag the big freighters kind of along for the ride, because they're not going to have any choice. And who are the other customers? It's not Western Union. They don't want to fire their 400 or whatever people that they have making their payment flows super efficient. It's going to be the small guys that replace them, the Cullinex and these other customers. So, and then of course in the end, I got to show you the best part. One more scene here. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, so these are the pirates, and they've saved the two heroes. She's getting a hug, and she's like, "Hey, wait a minute. What is that is so hard?" She goes, "Oh, well, it just so happens I managed to grab a few gems on my way out." And the rest of them are like, "Yeah, we all got rich too." So that's why I say these are the early XRP investors. At first, they were in it for the money, going after the wealth and so forth. And really, I think over time, they saw the opportunity to help humanity bring about this change. And in the process, got rich too. Nothing wrong with that, right? So that's the movie. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. I think it's quite excellent, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So one more thing, when you go back to this, the original castle pick from Bearable Guy 123, this is Laputa. Okay, this is what I think this riddle is all about. It's about XRP, taking charge. These are the power structures hanging off of wealth transfer or value transfer. The king is silenced. His scepter representing power is broken, no longer infinite. And Bearable Guy's sitting there telling us change is coming, starting after October. And the Knights Templar Malta is going to be our biggest supporter, helping us guard the gates and make all this happen and bring this change about, which was started by Bitcoin, represented by the Phoenix over here. So quite interesting. Of course, right now, this was the announcement, the run-up after the announcement of XRapid going live, and since then it's been falling and falling because, well, why isn't the price going crazy and yada, yada, yada? Well, yes, Ripple has announced that XRapid is commercially available, and there's these 3 customers, but apparently a lot of people can't read and can't tell the difference between Mercury FX, let's see, earlier this year, will deploy, and Cullinex saying they will use in here somewhere, right here. And same thing with this credit union saying that they will use, not that they are currently using or that XRapid is in use. It's saying that they will use it. So likely they haven't even really gone live yet. The product is commercially available, but the rollout is coming down the road, and it might be, in the next few days. I think this is going to be small, but again, look at these customers. This is not Western Union. This is the company that's going to replace Western Union. This is not Chase Manhattan Bank. These are the small credit unions that actually care about their customers and are more accountable, who are getting hooked in directly to RippleNet because they're tired of paying Chase these exorbitant fees to access Swift and their global network and their Nostro and Vostro accounts and so forth. These are the guys, these are the companies who are going to drive this profound, profound change that is represented by this JFK quote right here. That is what's coming. So again, hold on to your XRP. Do not sell. We might not see anything until November 4th, November 5th. And there are some big things coming November and December. Don't despair. Hang in there, folks. Amazing things are on the way later this year, and it is going to be a profound change for us, for society, and for future generations to come. I think that's all I got. I'm Sam I Am. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you next video.